Welcome to the Go Beyond the Score series of Disrupt Education. We're doing things differently here. I'm with Alli. I'm Peter Hostrawser. Who are you?
Hi, everyone. Alli Privitt over here. High school educator, educational consultant, trying to really kind of break down what we do here at Disrupt Education and is kind of breaking down educational silos and this idea that kids are more than a score, kids are more than they're more than a letter grade on a piece of paper. And how
Right.
do we kind of look at that and talk about that? And that's what this series is on, in terms of what we are going to dive into.
Right. This is, I'm really excited about this, honestly, because we've talked about this a lot and understanding going beyond the score. I'm going to open up the entire series with this analogy of a ball game. So I'm a huge White Sox fan, for those who don't know. I take my family to games and such. So don't hate if you're a Cub fan, Brewers fan, whoever else. That's all good. You see a game, right? Or you just see the score, right? So at the end of the day, like let's just say the score is 3-2. Maybe you see an inning in there, how many innings it went, and that's it, right? So okay, the Sox won, the Sox lost. These days the Sox are losing, so they probably lost. What does that mean, right? What does that mean? Like what does that mean to you, Alli? Like what are we missing here in that game?
Right? I think you're missing the richness of the experience. You're boiling down everything that a ball player and the fans and the coaches and everybody who's part of that experience into a numerical value that doesn't tell the story of what happened. Because, like, what if that 3-2? Well, the story could be totally different if you understand. Like, maybe all the points were scored in the first inning, and the rest of the game was a total drag.
Right, right.
Or maybe your Cubs were winning 2-0 until the bottom of the eighth inning or ninth inning, and then your White Sox come back in this like amazing, prolific triple run.
Now I'm dreaming like the White Sox are always beating the Cubs, which doesn't always happen. Yeah, right. Like so, there's these moments in the game, right? In any game, really. I mean, we're just using baseball as our analogy today, but there are these moments where there's a pitching challenge, or there might be a bad call, and how did they overcome that? Or they challenged it, or somebody got injured and the team was altered. Right? Like there are these different times. Maybe the bases were loaded and your big hitter was up and the pitcher struck him out and everybody went nuts, right? Like that's not in there unless you read the tally of a reporter these days, which I don't know how good sports reporting is that much these days. But that's another episode. But like right, like so then we take that, right? That game. Okay, let's just say 9 innings. Why not, right? 9 innings, and then we take 9 years of a student. So what's the score? What is the score, right?
Right. Like, so if we apply this to this idea of kids and education, what we're essentially doing in the educational space still to this day is very frequently boiling students down to an SAT, ACT, and letter grades on a transcript. And that misses out in the richness of their story and what they had to overcome or how they even achieved those things. Because was it they were good, they have been strong academically from the start and they maintained, did they overcome a lot of challenges in like elementary school, middle school, and like really blossomed in high school? Like even in high school, which you can have a myriad of things happen. A letter grade does not. Some of my best students that really think differently and like really think outside the box, that is not represented on a transcript.
Yeah.
It's just not.
Right.
They're wildly interesting stories. They're super creative. I'm just thinking of this one student this past year. Absolutely just brilliant the way her mind worked, and she could understand lab stuff and the concepts. With one example, like homework wasn't interesting to her. Like it wasn't something that preoccupied her mind, and like, or necessarily completing the lab reports. And yet, like, I just think like if you judged her by her letter grade, you would miss out on this amazing caliber student who like has a lot of value to add to any conversation. And it's just not represented. It's just not represented in the traditional format.
I think what's interesting is you made me think of another story early in my teaching career, year 2. Yeah, I'm 20 years in. I had a student who did the opposite, but I wanted to know more, right? So I was teaching accounting, and this young man just didn't do homework, right? And I kind of struggled with that. I was like, why are you not doing your homework? And, he took his first test and he aced it, right? And accounting, for me, I know accounting the first time I took it, which I had to withdraw in college, it was hard, right? So I just didn't get it. And then, obviously I'm a business teacher now. But so the second test, he came up to me and he was like, Mr. H, my grade is going down because I'm not doing homework. Yet on the assessments, I'm doing fine. Can we make a deal? And this kid made a deal with me, right? And, I'm young. I'm just like, whatever. Okay. Sounds like a good idea. And he was like, if I do 95% or higher on the big assessment, can you like just exempt all my homework on that beforehand? And I was like, yes. And if you don't, you're going to have to go back and do all the work. Is that a deal? No kidding, Alli, he like the rest of the semester, he nailed the test. I think he averaged like 98 on all these tests. What I missed in the opportunity was asking him, how did he do that? Like, I didn't know how he did that. And these tests were, I remade every test. It wasn't like these tests were floating around or all that. And this was, I'm old, so it was like pre a lot of the technology that we have. The kids did not have cell phones then. So that was a missed opportunity. And I think that's the other end of what we're talking about, even like who figured it out and who can actually learn how to play the game. So there's this wide array of what else. So what else is there? How else can we,
right?
Yeah. How else can we pick these stories?
I know something that we've talked about and kind of wrestled with, and which is why we're bringing this here, is, like, what is it going to take to change the story and the narrative of boiling down student learning and success and their story to a letter grade, and how can we make changes that colleges, the workforce, and the next stage are going to kind of accept and almost regulate or like demand so that it trickles down? Because what I've had in conversations with you and with other people is that if what colleges and what workforce, even trade schools, wherever kids are going, are still requesting your transcript and letters of recommendation, but they're not asking for a portfolio or an essay, or rather like what you are trying to bring, or what basis of academic scholarship or whatnot that you're going to get is based on those scores, then what is motivating high schools to change?
Right.
What is driving like any kind of shift in the narrative, right? If every day the news report came out and just listed the scores of the baseball games, that's it. They got rid of sports like broadcasting and all of that. That's basically the equivalent. Like you get no story. You don't get to see the game. The games aren't shown anymore. Fans don't get to be there. Like it's all like a black box. All you get is a score. Are you going to fall in love with baseball?
Exactly. No. I mean, yeah. So as I'm thinking about that, and you've posted a lot about working backwards, and I truly agree with you about how colleges and post-secondary opportunities are the driving force into how our schools are quote unquote rated, and all these different things. And there's been different things where different entities have tried to rate schools on different areas, but it always comes down to GPAs, scores, and what are the attendance rates and dropout rates, right? And it's always just a number. And I get data is important. I don't want to discount that. One of the things that I did when my kid went to college, he didn't go to college. We went on a college visit. I took him, and we sat the first 30 minutes of the entire kind of presentation. Then we go on a 90-minute tour. The 30 minutes was no different than mine 30 years before. It was, and they listed that score and your GPA, and that's usually what you're going to do to get in. And the gentleman said, if your score is lower on any of these, then your college essay becomes really important. But why isn't your college essay and or your learning journey, maybe a portfolio, why is that not the most important thing if we're going to be more equitable, right? And that's a whole nother thing, but because, for some reason, and I'm definitely not taking the pat on the back for this, my son got a good score on his SAT, right? I did not. I did not at all. As a matter of fact, he almost doubled my score. He might have doubled my score. But maybe it's his mother. But, but there's so much more to him. He actually doesn't really enjoy school. I mean, he enjoys doing some other things. There are pieces of school that he enjoys. So why? Why? What's the opportunity we're missing here?
Also think about, I think about so many of the students I've taught over the years who not only by the end of high school feel like a failure.
Right.
Because of that, but then they do not, a lot of them do not go to college, and or they don't feel like we don't build their learning journey and affirm it for so long that at some point we're missing a whole group of amazing, brilliant people that have internalized their success as a letter grade. I see it all the time, every year. And what are colleges like? What population are colleges and people who do put people on a scale like that missing out on in their institutions, in their organizations, simply because they rate or put at the highest level what you did on a test, a 4 to 5 hour test on a Saturday morning, or on a school day in the middle of the school year. Why is that one day deemed more important than the history of your learning journey? There's so much more. There's so much stuff left out.
Right.
So much.
Right. I think what we're hearing here, and we'll continue this in the series, but is how do we let people know the human side first, your skill sets, who you are, what you overcome, and that's where all your equitable education comes in, and because we're all on different paths. Some of us have more, some of us don't have more, some of us has access. What did you do with little or no access? What did you do with a lot of access? Maybe you did nothing with a lot of access, and maybe you did a lot with no access. But how do we find those things out? And I think there's a lot of opportunities that we're missing in going beyond the score here, especially the institutions. And I think I'm going to kind of finalize the conversation with my son going to college is we went to, they showed us the career center, which is the size of my office here, which is basically 10 by 10. And you're talking about a university, a pretty prominent university, a good university here in Illinois, that there are over 25,000 students, and this is where, even physically, this is something that is very small, and this is where, that's the place where you connect academia to reality. I think it needs to be bigger and earlier.
I agree. And even it's interesting because, I've taught at bigger high schools, and it wasn't until this upcoming year that we even have a counselor dedicated to it. We have a secretary, but even still, like, right, they're literally churning papers and making sure kids get all of their paperwork done to submit to colleges. And I know, and I'm this is no discredit to the counselors, because I know they have these conversations with kids, and but it's piecemealed, but it's about making decisions. And I feel like it's a little stressful for students because they don't know what they want to do. A lot of them, there's some, but all of this to be like, rather than focusing on your next step, how about we just like tease out your learning, build a story around that, spend high school like kind of exploring and having more connections outside of the school environment in order for you to make a really informed decision in your later years after having some experience beyond a score, right? Like, again, it's going back to that idea of how do we really just emphasize the learning and the learning journey and what you're building versus, well, you got to get this score on this test to get into this university. You got to maintain this GPA, and like it's letter grades, numbers. I'm a scientist, and yet I'm like, there's too much data sometimes. We don't need that much numerical data.
Do you ever ask, like, I always do this in my realm with parents and such, and they're like, how's your kid doing in school or whatever? And they always like, oh, I got like a 3.8, they're doing good. And I'm like, what does that mean? And no one can answer that question. I want to answer. I think that's what we're talking about here in the Going Beyond the Score series. So I can't wait. We're gonna dive into how to validate. Why should a kid be chosen on this? We're going to talk through this. We're going to get some ideas. But we also want to reach out to a lot of listeners. And who are you? Are there people out there who are connecting academia and reality? And if they are, just connect with us. We'll put all our information in the notes, but we really want to kind of build this community of partnerships, not just for change, but for reality, right? So I'm excited. We're going to go deeper into this in this series. Any last moment things as we dive in, because we'll be back next week with another piece of this.
I think I would just add that, like, if you are doing things to kind of tell the story of learning, and I don't care if you are a student, a teacher in a classroom, a principal of a building, you're at a college, university, you're in a workforce, if you're doing something that is promoting students and people to share their story beyond a numerical value, we want to know about it. And that's what this series is going to explore more in depth. So yeah, we're really excited to bring it to you guys and just see like where it takes us.
Can't wait to dive into these missed opportunities, because there's so many of them. And this is great. I can't wait. And thank you all for listening. Check it out. Reach out to us. Throw us a note. And we'll catch you next time on Disrupt Education.